Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth and final instalment of Storytime Romeo and Juliet with me and my main man, Billy Shakes. Now, last where we left off this tragic story, Juliet had just faked her own death because she was being forced to marry Paris by her parents. But sadly, she was not able to marry Paris because her and Romeo had been married in secret. But Romeo had been exiled to Mantua because he had murdered Juliet's cousin, Tybalt. It's all drama, it's all conflama, it's all tomfoolery and shenanigans here in Verona. Now, before we get started with the fourth and final part of the story, I just wanted to say that there are many fantastic adaptations out there of Romeo and Juliet, suitable for kids and for older audiences as well. One of my personal favourites is the brilliant film Romeo and Juliet, but there are also some great summaries and animated versions of it, which I will attach in the link below. So, without further ado, Romeo and Juliet, Part 4.
Romeo, meanwhile, had fled from Verona to Mantua. It was there that he heard from a stranger the news of Juliet's death. Mad with grief, he decided on a dark course of action. He persuaded a chemist to sell him a fatal dose of poison. "I cannot live without her," he thought. "Better to die by poison at her side. Juliet, I will lie with you tonight." And he began to make his way back to Verona. Friar Lawrence had written to Romeo, telling him that Juliet was not really dead, but Romeo wasn't in Mantua to receive the letter. When Romeo failed to answer, Friar Lawrence realised to his horror that the message had never reached the young Montague. "Oh dear," agonised Friar Lawrence. "Juliet's due to wake in 3 hours. I'll write again. The boy has to know it's all a pretence, so they can be together." But as the messenger made his way to Mantua, Romeo was already galloping on horseback to Verona. He was going to break into the Capulet family vault. Nothing, he swore, was going to stop his last terrible act. Nothing would come between him and his beloved Juliet. When he arrived, the door to the vault was wide open, and, standing by the marble tomb on which Juliet lay, Romeo saw Paris. Solemnly, reverently, he was strewing her body with flowers. When he heard Romeo enter, Paris turned in fury. "This is your fault," he roared. "You murdered her cousin, and now she's died of grief. How dare you come here, to this most holy place? You vile Montague, you must die." "I must indeed," Romeo replied. "Listen, Paris, I need to stay here alone. Go, please. If not, it will be the worse for you." "Never," Paris said, drawing his sword. Romeo tried to keep his temper in check this time, unlike in his fatal encounter with Tybalt. He implored Paris, "Begone, and just say a madman made you run away." "You admit you're mad? Then why should I listen to your ravings?" sneered Paris, lunging at Romeo. Romeo drew his own sword, and they fought until Paris fell, mortally wounded. Summoning all his strength, Paris uttered his last request. "If you are merciful, lay me beside Juliet." Then he slumped to the floor and closed his eyes. Romeo stared at him in sorrow. Then he went to Juliet and gazed at her body. She looked as though she was only asleep. He drank in her beauty, her stillness, mourning all that might have been, and the cruelty of fate that had killed their love. Slowly he lay down beside her. "Eyes, take your last look," he thought to himself. He opened the vial of poison and drank every last drop. Then he kissed Juliet one last time on the lips. "And so, with a kiss, I die," he breathed. The poison flooded through him, turning his body cold, and he lay down beside Juliet. and died. An hour passed before the door of the vault opened again. Friar Lawrence, true to his promise, had come to be with Juliet as she awoke. At once, his eyes fell on the unmistakable red-spattered stains that told a hotly violent tale. "Blood!" exclaimed the friar, deeply shocked. First he found Paris's body, and then he saw Romeo, lifeless, next to Juliet. Was it all my fault? He asked himself, clutching his chest in anguish. I wanted to help young love and end the hatred between their families, and now... Oh, now Juliet awakes. Juliet's eyes fluttered open and she smiled. I feel so comfortable seeing you, Friar Lawrence, she said, yawning and sitting up. I remember everything. Where is my Romeo? Friar Lawrence found it hard to say the words, but he had no choice. The truth lay starkly before them both. Dead. And Paris too, he choked. Flee, Juliet, while you can. I'll find a place for you in a convent where no one will ask any questions. Quick, I dare not stay here any longer. It's not safe. Juliet gasped. Romeo and Paris. Love had played her false, and there was only one way to redeem it. But not in front of the friar. She had to be alone. No, I will stay here, she said, clutching the sides of the tomb till her knuckles turned white. Did she have the strength for what she wanted to do? She had to. Go, she shouted at the trembling, pale-faced friar. I will not leave this place. To her relief, Friar Lawrence stumbled out of the horrific vault as fast as he could. Now she could begin to piece together what had happened. A vial was clasped in Romeo's hand. Poison, then. Suicide. She'd follow him, of course. Death was the only answer. But the vial was empty. Oh, you drank it all and left no drop to help me, she thought. Perhaps if I kiss your lips, some poison might still be on them. She pressed her lips on his. They were still warm, and waited for the end. It did not come. Death was not going to be so easy. A last choice awaited her. Yes, she whispered to herself, I think I do have the strength. She found Romeo's dagger, pulled it out and plunged it deep into her side. Her body fell lifeless over his, and the rose of her blood slowly bloomed over them both. Sad news filters fast through the storylines of life. Before very much longer, the vault was full of people. Romeo's parents, Juliet's parents, her nurse, Friar Lawrence, and the prince. They were all shocked and devastated by the sight of the two young people clasped together on the tomb, and of Paris lying in his blood on the floor, flowers and petals scattered wildly about them. Friar Lawrence explained how it had happened and begged forgiveness for his part in the tragedy. I know you are, without a question, a holy man, said the prince. We are all punished by these deaths. Capulet, Montague, see what hate has done to you. I should have done more to try and stop it, and so should you. Oh, brother Montague, wept old Capulet, a broken man. Give me your hand. Willingly, replied old Montague, equally moved. The old sworn enemies finally clasped each other by their children's tomb, drawn together in grief. Outside, the sky was dark with clouds, as if, that day in Verona, the sun could not bear to shine.
A glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for sorrow will not show his head. Go hence to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned and some punished, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo.